Let me give you a brief introduction about myself. I'm an exchange student who came from China to Vancouver. I'm 18 and I'm currently studying architecture. I live a fairly normal life, have a good family, and have lots of friends over in China. Just a couple of weeks ago, my campus had a school shooter, which means that we had to go into lockdown mode, where people in classrooms hide under the tables and people in the washroom just sit there and pray. I was one of the guys who were stuck in the washroom by myself. The campus wasn't the cleanest, which is probably one of the reasons why not many people go there. As the lockdown began, all the lights in the facility were turned off as well as the one in the bathrooms. It was then that I realized that I forgot my phone in the lecture room. Obviously, there is no way that I'm going outside since I don't know if the shooter is still out there, so I just chilled there. I was in the washroom for a minute or two when I heard water dripping on the floor. I didn't really care since, like I said before, the facility is really bad. Not much happened for the next 5 or so minutes. What happened next messed with me real good. The light outside the bathroom turned on for about 5 seconds, and as I stared at the bathroom stalls, the light coming from under the door illuminated a pair of wet feet in the stalls. It knows I'm here and so do I. I was too scared to scream and just stared at the bottom of the stall after the light turned off and left me frozen in the darkness. There was literally nothing I could do but just wait for the police to show up and burst out of the bathroom. As it gets more quiet and dark, I could hear the breathing of the thing inside the bathroom. I couldn't really make up the height of the thing since the stall went all the way up the ceiling. Just then, I heard the stall door opening. I lost it. As I was about to storm out of the bathroom, I saw a pair of shoes at the door of the bathroom. It was the shooter, but it seems to be looking in the other direction, not really looking in the direction of the bathroom. I can hear the thing crawling up the walls and heard one of the tiles on the ceiling shut. It is no longer in the bathroom, which brings me a ton of relief, but I start to wonder why it hasn't attacked me. I could hear the police sirens. It's finally over. A few minutes later, the lights in the school turned on except the bathroom lights. I reached for the light switch, but another hand was there. It had come from the ceiling. As I looked up, I could see the silhouette of the thing staring down at me. I screamed as loud as I could and went back up the ceiling, slamming the tiles. I bolted out of the bathroom and back to my lecture room, picked up my phone and ran to the police, who were still at the entrance of the facility. They did a search through the ceilings and the bathroom but found nothing, not even a trace or footprint, and told me to get some rest. I stopped going to my university and had to go back to China, where I am now telling this experience to you guys. Whatever was in that bathroom that day was definitely not human, and I'm just glad that I'm with my parents. However, recently water started dripping from my bathroom in my house, and I can sometimes hear scratching noises coming from the ceiling. This happened in 2016, during the whole killer clown craze. A few clowns on Twitter threatened to come to our school at 11 a.m. and kill us. The school picked up on this, and sent out emails to parents and planned a lockdown at 10:30. Sitting in history class, I hear the familiar sound of the lockdown alarm, the teacher rushing to the windows and door, locking and closing them. To be honest, I wasn't that worried. I thought that it was just another blank threat online, and nothing would happen, and my day would go back to normal, but there is still an excitement to a lockdown. After 40 minutes of silence, sitting on the cold floor in the corner of the room, the emergency green flashing light turned off, and the air conditioning slowly fell silent, and the hallway lights switched off. The school had cut the power. Why though? At this point, me and my classmates were staring at each other. We all knew that something real was going on. After 10 minutes or so, we could all hear a faint banging noise from down the corridor, shortly followed by heavy and fast footsteps. Someone was running down the hallway. They started banging on the lockers and screamed, "I'll kill you all. Just die." At this point, a few girls started quietly crying. Then, the most terrifying thing ever happened. One of the men, dressed as a clown, ran up to my class door, banging and screaming. Multiple people were crying now. One of my friends whispered to me, "We're all going to die." I started crying too. The man swiftly moved away from our door, and his scream slowly faded down the corridor. After another 2 hours, the principal came on the loudspeaker, surprisingly, explaining everything. He said that just after 11, 2 men walked into the school, one holding a kitchen knife and a camera. They ran around the school, threatening to kill students, and once police raided the school, only caught one. No one was hurt. The school got over 20 buses to take the younger kids home, and the kids 9th grade and over, like me, were told to walk home in groups, and call the cops if we saw anything suspicious. I had a hard week at school, thinking that the second man would return, with a gun or something, but nothing happened. This, nonetheless, will be scarred into my mind forever. The second one, as far as I know, has not yet been caught, but at this point, I feel like they are not looking for him, as it's been years since the lockdown, but the thought of him still planning an attack on the school has made me a lot more cautious when walking to school. Since then, the school has hired a few on-campus police officers, and have installed some auto-locking features on doors and windows. When the lockdown alarm goes off, this had made me feel a little bit better in school, but this just isn't something that you can forget about. It stays around, forever. I've seen a bunch of people share their own experiences with school lockdowns, so I thought I'd share one of my own. It was a normal, boring day. 7th period math. The clock showed 2:45 p.m., which meant the school day was nearly done. As it was a Friday and spring break was upon us, everyone was getting antsy in their seats. Everyone else had tests and whatnot, whereas my class got to have fun. We had a super laid-back teacher who loved to entertain us as much as possible. We lucked out in that sense. Me and my girlfriend Jessica were fooling around when it happened. The alarm for the lockdown went off and the principal came over the loudspeaker. Now for some context. Typically a teacher would yell lockdown 3 times if it was a drill. We were always told if it was said 4 times it was not a drill. The reason for this was to hide the fact that we knew someone was in the building with malicious intent. Lockdown, 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 lockdown. I've gotten so used to hearing it 3 times, and it always being a drill that I paid no attention to how many times lockdown was said. The teacher did the usual, turning off the lights, closing the door and ushering us to the back corner of the room where we couldn't be seen from the glass on the door. Our classroom had 2 doors. One at the front and one at the back. In midst of all the commotion, me and Jessica did the one thing you should never do in a lockdown: we snuck out of the class. We were now in the hallway on the 3rd floor. Everything looked so weird. Not a single person in sight other than the 2 of us. A sort of humming noise coming from the walls indicated the school cut all power, which was weird as I thought it was a drill. "Hey Jessica, why is the power out if it's a drill?" I asked. "I'm not sure, maybe it's not a drill," I replied. I could have sworn lockdown was yelled 4 times, not 3, being the fool I was, I brushed it off as nothing. We were roaming the halls when we started to hear a sound. Footsteps. We got really weirded out as no one was supposed to be outside the class. Fearing it was a teacher, we ran into the nearest bathroom to hide. God, how I wish it was a teacher. We ran into the 4th stall that was tucked into the corner and hid. Giggling like a bunch of kids, we were sure we had gotten away. Maybe about 30 seconds had passed and we had started to hear the footsteps again, but this time much closer. My heart froze, it was right outside the door. We were now sure we had been caught. We kept as quiet and still as possible, hoping not to make a sound. Weird. The person outside hadn't come in yet, but they hadn't left either. If they left, we would have heard footsteps leaving. But we never heard them. Jessica pointed this out to me, and I immediately got scared. The door opened. Someone stepped in. I was about to walk out the stall door and apologize for sneaking off when Jessica stopped me. She told me it was protocol for teachers to ask if there's anyone in the bathroom. She was right. What should we do? Do we go out and meet the person or do we stay? While contemplating what to do, the silence was broken. "I know you're in there. Come out with your hands up, slowly behind your head. Try anything and I'll kill you." My heart jumped out as he said that. "Jake, don't do anything," Jessica whispered in a half cry. The maniac was now directly in front of the door. I didn't hear him move an inch and now he's right here. That's impossible. He started pounding on the door. "Let me in, let me in." The maniac started cackling dementedly. It was as if death was knocking on my door. When I thought all was gone, I heard a familiar voice. It was my teacher, Mr. Taylor. "Hey, what are you doing?" I heard a scuffle outside and I immediately rushed to aid my teacher. Eventually we got the maniac held down and cops were called. The man was an escapee from a mental asylum near the school. Thankfully no one was harmed. Take one lesson away from this. Always listen to instructions, and never take people lightly.